We are now turning to the growing outrage over the rise in anti-Asian hate crimes in this country. Actress Olivia Munn is speaking out, saying it just can't be open season on Asian Americans. Over the weekend, as thousands of people across the country protested anti-Asian racism, there were 4 more attacks against Asian Americans right here in New York City. One of the victims was leaving a protest with her young daughter. This follows the deadly shootings at 3 Atlanta area spas. 8 people were killed there, including 6 Asian women. There have been nearly 3,800 hate incidents against Asian Americans reported since last March in a year, and that number could be higher because not all the incidents are tallied. Olivia Munn joins us now to discuss. Olivia, it's really good to see you. This is such an important conversation. I like what you have said in the past. You said this: we are living in a country that attacking us simply for being us. I think that statement is very powerful. How are you processing all of this yourself?
Thankfully, there is a group of us, other leaders in the Asian community, that communicate together on a chat. So that has been really helpful. But it's been exhausting, and it doesn't really feel like there's an end to it. You know, I speak with my mom a lot. My mom is still really afraid to leave the house. Like you said about, you know, just 4 more incidents since all the protesting has been happening, and especially at the protest. And it's just, there's this feeling of like that people are aware now, people are hearing, people are seeing what's going on, but it's still not stopping the violence. And yeah, I don't really know what we're supposed to do.
Did you take note on the chat when the flags were lowered in this country to half-staff? That's never happened before. What did you all say about that?
Yes, that was an extremely emotional moment for all of us. We all just took a moment, and I think a lot of us cried. I cried. It was really important to have such an important position in the world actually say that we see what's happening, we see your pain, and we want to acknowledge it. And we have just gone for so long feeling so invisible, and our pain has been invisible, and the attacks on our community have been invisible. And to have the President of the United States say that he sees us made us feel that we were seen maybe just a little bit more.
Can you give us an example exactly of the pain? I think until that, listen, we've been reporting on it for the past year, but I think until that shooting happened, the spa, it was like a wake-up call for many people to say, what is the problem here? What is happening? Can you give some examples of why this is so important, some of the egregious things that have happened and are happening?
Well, since the pandemic was weaponized against Asian Americans, we have had a target on our back. And there has been so much violence against us. I mean, the whole world, we all went into a lockdown, and that was extremely frustrating for all of us. And then we had our former president give people an actual target to put out their frustrations, and that was on the Asian Americans in our country, and to say it's their fault. And so we've had this target on our back, and like you had said earlier that I had said, which is that it can't be open season on Asians, and it has been. And we have been beaten, slashed, shot, murdered, attacked, screamed at, and it feels like we are screaming into an echo chamber, and no one has been hearing us. And we've been crying and pleading out for people to hear us and to help us. And then it comes down to what happened in Atlanta. And, you know, in our group, we've been talking about it a lot. Like, how many dead bodies will it take for people to care? And it turns out that it takes 8.
Yeah. Olivia, you're absolutely right. It's taken us too long to notice. It really has. I want to ask you, you mentioned your mom and being scared to go out. And I've heard that from a lot of people. You've also said your mom taught you to speak out for what's right, but don't cause trouble. And I've heard from some Asian American friends who said that, you know, because of this sort of culture of being more quiet, they've struggled to find their voice, but are finding it now. I'm wondering how you're feeling about that.
That's right. You know, my mom is a Viet refugee, so I'm first-generation American. And when my mother and her 8 siblings and her mother came to America, they didn't speak any English. And they all came here, and they all went off and got multiple degrees. I have an uncle who worked for NASA, an uncle who was a top engineer at Ford, aunts and uncles who became doctors. They all became really great citizens of America. They really wanted to add to the fabric of our country. But throughout that, there has been this underlying kind of lesson in our life, which was don't cause any waves. Because as second-class citizens in our own country, the idea that any of our pain or our frustrations or anything could cause any waves or ripples or create any more attention onto us was a really bad thing. And that's what we've seen with the culture with Asians in our country and why there's so much underreporting, because we really have been taught to literally take it on the chin and keep going, that just to simply exist in this country is enough, that we're not even asking to be seen as full human beings.
Right.
And the fact that the younger generation, my generation, we're seeing what's happening. We were raised right by our parents. And now it's our turn to say to them, look, you paved all these roads for us. Now it's time for us to take you back to the front of these roads and walk down with you and show you that you can be safe in this country and that you deserve to be in this country.
Olivia, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We really appreciate you sharing all of this with us. Olivia Munn. It's such an important issue,
Thank you, guys.
And we promise we're going to keep covering it.